Turn your Bibles to Genesis 25. Genesis 25. And again, I wish I could remember when it was going to be business meeting, and I would prepare something short. 25, yeah. So we'll just see how this goes. Maybe I'll just get through it quicker. I don't know. But Genesis 25. We are in the life of Jacob. We're going to move past Isaac. He will be mentioned tonight. We'll get to that. Get that far. But we're into the life of Jacob. Goes from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, number 3. Let me ask you the question: why does God bless people who sin? Why does God bless sinful people? What? What'd you say? Yes, exactly right. It's not because he doesn't have morals. It's not because he is unjust. It's not because he is unfair. It's because there's no one type of people there are. And just so we cover this, to make sure you know this, no one has ever gotten away with anything. All sin is punished. Either sin is punished by an eternity in hell, or sin is punished on the cross of Jesus Christ. No one ever gets away with anything. God is not unjust. He is perfectly righteous, perfectly fair, perfectly just. So no sin goes unpunished. But God does bless people. And so if God is just, and yet God does bless people, what does that mean? God must also be merciful, forgiving. And so we worship a God who is merciful, who is a forgiving God. And this story, Jacob, is a story that proves all of that. Jacob was a sinful person. His very name is often said, and I'm going to really, it's often said that Jacob means deceiver. Now, I don't believe it quite means deceiver. What it does mean is supplanter. Supplanter. And that word means to supersede. To supersede. So the computer superseded the slide rule. You've seen in these old movies where they're trying to add something. They take the little wooden rings and move them around on the slide rule. Or the car, the automobile, superseded the horse. And so his name means to take the place of, to replace, to supersede. That's what the name Jacob means. And you'll see throughout his whole life, he is desiring to take the place of someone else. He's really ambitious. If you could say anything about Jacob, it is that he is an ambitious person. And we'll see that. And that's what is meant by the name Jacob. He's ambitious. He's always trying to supersede, trying to get to the next level, trying to level up, so to speak. Let's look here first at his birth. And it comes right from the very beginning, from the very time that he's being foretold of. All of this is foreshadowed. Genesis 25, verse 23, said, "And the Lord said unto her," who would the her here would be Rebekah, Isaac's wife. And I just realized that. Anyway, one of your quiz questions got the wrong answer from it. Anyway, verse 23, "And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." That's different than how you would think it would be. The younger you would think would serve the older, but no. It's foretold that the elder shall serve the younger. Verse 24, "And when her days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over, like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. Jacob means supplanter, and even in his birth, he is trying to supplant. He is trying to take the place of. He's ambitious, even in his very birth. He's reaching out to get a hold of Esau's heel. He wants to have Esau's place, and so he is reaching out even from his very birth. He is trying to take Esau's place, and so the prophecy of the elder serving the younger is foreshadowed in the birth, even in the very birth. And this is always what Jacob is trying to do. He is trying to take the higher place. He's always desiring a place that is higher than where he is. Esau, when it says that the elder shall serve the younger, there's actually no place in the lives of Esau and Jacob where the elder does serve, where Esau physically serves Jacob. There's a lot that happens between the two of them, but you don't see where Esau serves Jacob. What you do see throughout the rest of the scriptures is that the descendants of Esau, does anybody know who those people were called? Starts with an E. Edomites. The Edomites were constantly being battled against by Israel and defeated in battle. And so in that way, the elder did serve the younger. So it's not, that fulfillment doesn't happen within their lifetimes, but it does happen afterward. There's also a New Testament character who is a descendant of Esau. Esau settled in a place called Edom. His descendants become the Edomites. And Edomites, that phrase, that Edom, that slowly over time becomes Idumea. Does that ring a bell for any New Testament character? Who was the Idumean king during the life of Jesus? Herod. Herod was the Idumean king, or Idumean king, that actually God uses in the life of Jesus. So even all the way down into the New Testament, the elder, the Idumean king, serves the younger, the descendant, Jesus, who was a descendant of Jacob, in fulfilling prophecy, in building the temple, and even in the Herod the Great, who built the temple, Herod's descendant, who was the king during Jesus' lifetime, fulfills prophecy, doesn't interfere with Jesus' crucifixion. His father had sent Jesus, because of his killing of the babies, had sent Jesus into Egypt, which was a fulfillment of prophecy also. So God uses the Idumean all the way down, probably 1,500 or so years later, to serve the younger Jesus and his purposes. So this does happen throughout Israel's history and all the way down to the story of Jesus. Let's read now that they grow up, and Esau, who is the firstborn, who had the right of primogeniture, the right of the firstborn for the best inheritance. Some say they would have inherited it all, depending on who you read and what the ancient practices may have been. But they definitely had the bigger inheritance as the firstborn. So in verse 27 of Genesis 25, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Playing favorites. It's a bad deal. Parents are playing favorites. It's not going to end well. And it didn't end well. Jacob loves Esau because he's out in the field with Isaac. Jacob, it seems, enjoyed being inside, was a cook, and so spent more time with Rebekah, and so Rebekah loves Jacob. One's a city slicker, one's kind of a cowboy. Isaac loves the cowboy, Rebekah loves the city slicker. Verse 29, and Jacob sought pottage he cooked some beans, some lentils, cooked some lentils, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage." For that was somebody we're just going to leave the person there if they did. Feed me some of that red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom, which means red. Verse 31, and Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright." Now that seems like a ridiculous sale. Esau has the right to inherit from Isaac, because he's the firstborn, and he comes in and he is hungry, comes from the field hungry, and Isaac just so happens that he has just cooked some beans, and says, and Esau says, Jacob says, "Sell me your birthright for this pot of beans." Now that sounds ridiculous. No way would anyone do that. No way would I do it. That's a ridiculous thing. But Esau, being a man of the field, being a man of kind of like Peter, who was just rash and who was just all about the moment, he goes with it. He says, verse 32, and Esau had said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" You know what I would have said? I'd have said, "You're my brother. Don't you love me? If he was really that near death, can't you feed your brother?" But he doesn't. He says, "What good can a birthright do if I die right here in the kitchen?" Now, what a silly conversation it is. But he does, because he is just this rash guy who doesn't care about inheritance. He cares about the moment. Living in the moment here. And so he sells it. Verse 33. Jacob said, "Swear to me this day," and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Like he'd not really done anything, just kind of ate supper and took off. Obviously he wasn't at the point of death, otherwise he would have eaten and had to gain some strength before he could go his way. But he sold his birthright here for one meal, sells his birthright, and it says, "Thus Esau despised his birthright." Obviously, he despised his birthright. He gives it up for a measly pot of beans. And what did he give up? Depending on who you read and what the idea is that the firstborn would have inherited, probably he definitely would have inherited the first right of inheritance, meaning he could have at least chosen the best things out of the father's inheritance to take after his father had died. Perhaps he would have been given it all, but at least the first right in the inheritance. He would have, as the primogenitor, as the firstborn, he would have had the right to lead the family after the death of his father. And he would have had a right to receive a special blessing from the father. So that the father, during his lifetime, could give him special blessings because he was the firstborn. And Esau gives all that up for one meal. Just for his dinner, for his son. It's a sad day. A sad deal. Esau here failed to rein in his appetites. Failed to rein in his appetites. Failing to rein in your appetite, or failure to rein in one's appetite, well, it caused Esau to make a poor sacrifice. Esau here made a sacrifice. We talked about sacrifice a couple of weeks ago. Esau here made a sacrifice. What did he sacrifice? Answer. What did he sacrifice? What did he trade for the meal? His birthright. He traded his birthright. He sacrificed his birthright. What did he get when he sacrificed his birthright, what did he receive for that?
A pot of lentils?
Yes, yes. So the birthright for the pot of lentils, which is greater and which is lesser? The birthright or the pot of lentils? The birthright. Did he sacrifice the greater to the lesser, or did he sacrifice the lesser to the greater? He sacrificed the greater to the lesser. That's the wrong direction. That's the wrong direction. He should have sacrificed his meal to keep the birthright. That's what you always sacrifice, the lesser to the greater. The lesser to the greater. And that's why all of your sacrifices ultimately are sacrificed toward God. Throughout all of Scripture, all the sacrifices are toward God because He is greatest. And so you sacrifice the lesser to the greater. Esau sacrificed the greater to the lesser. He sacrificed the birthright, which had all sorts of benefits, to one meal, to a moment of time, to have gratification in a single instance. That's a bad trade. It's a bad sacrifice. And failure to rein in your appetites will cause you to make that sacrifice. He didn't just one day say, Esau, Jacob just didn't come to him one day and say, Esau, I'll give you this pot of lentils if you'll give me your birthright. It didn't just happen on a general one day out of the year when Esau was ready to answer the question and could really think through it. No, it happened when Esau was hungry, when Esau was weakened for a moment. That's when Esau made the big mistake. Why? Because of an appetite, because of a hunger. And we can make the same mistakes. We can sacrifice the greater to the lesser when we fail to rein in our appetites. Now, I didn't come up with this list, but this is a list that I saw in an article. All of the different appetites that human beings have. Here's a list of different appetites. Physical appetites: hunger, thirst, sleep, and sex. Emotional appetites: love, power, achievement, safety, belonging, recognition, curiosity. Spiritual appetites, and I probably would have come up with some other way of putting it, but spiritual appetites: meaning, connection, beauty, and justice. Think of all that list. Are any of those wrong in and of themselves? Is it wrong to be hungry? No. Is Esau sinning when he sits down and desires some food to eat? No, he was not doing anything wrong. What was wrong is him sacrificing that gratifying of appetites to something that was much greater. And we can do the same thing. We can do the same thing. The things you may desire may not be wrong in and of themselves, but they're to be properly ordered. You have to have properly ordered sacrifices. And when you do, you can have all of these things. You can have all of these things, but all in their proper time and place. Does that make sense? Mason, does that make sense? Okay. So he failed to rein in his appetites. It caused him to make an improper sacrifice. He sacrificed the greater to the lesser. Moving on in Jacob's life, he deceived his father. And this is something that probably had to happen after he had bought the birthright from Esau. Jacob probably felt like he had to deceive his father, otherwise his father might step in and remedy the situation. So he had to make his father give his blessing on the inheritance, the right of the firstborn, the primogeniture, whatever. He had to have Isaac give his blessing on top of it, but the way he does it is in a totally deceptive way. And you read this and you think, that's an incredible thing that Jacob and Rebekah do to Isaac. How can God bless something like that? And it is crazy. But you see it throughout Abraham's life. He lies about his wife, says she's his sister. Isaac does that very same thing in the very same town. And they're still blessed after that. And I think that is it just goes to show that God is merciful. God does bless people who sin because He is merciful. He is forgiving. Proverbs says it is man's glory to overlook a fault, overlook a sin. I believe it was Pastor Sexton who said, I know it was him that I heard him quote it. He said, "You're never more like God than when you forgive. You are never more like God than when you forgive." And so God is a forgiving God. Even though Jacob here deceives his father, God does bless him because He is forgiving. And we can all see that in our own lives. We can all see where we have massively screwed up, where we have really done something terrible. And God still takes care of us. He still blesses us. Maybe you've prayed that a situation would work out one way. You've done some things to work it out that way. Maybe even some sins. And God takes that away from you. Says, "No, I'm not going to answer that prayer in that way. No is my answer." And then He blesses you, puts you on the right path, and blesses that path. It happened to me many times. And so I can personally attest to that this very thing happens in your life. You screw up, but God still will bless you. Now, Jacob paid for his deception by being deceived himself, and we're going to see that. But he does deceive Isaac, and he is blessed because of it. It would be good to read this whole section from verse 1 in chapter 27, if you're not there. Chapter 27, it'd be good to read down through verse 33, the whole thing, but I'm going to try to skip through it. It came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son and said unto him, "My son." And he said unto him, "Behold, here am I." And he said, "Behold now, I am old, and know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out into the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die." All right, the instruction has been given to Esau. What happens after that? Verse 5, "And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it." So Rebekah heard it. She goes to Jacob and says, "Hey, let's pull one over on your father." Verse 8, "Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death." Verse 15, "And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son." Remember, they didn't have a washing machine, so he had just worn it, then put it up in his closet, so to speak. So he takes Esau's garment, which smelled like him, which is key for the rest of the story. Verse 16, "And she puts the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck, and she gave the savory meat and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came to his father and said, 'My father.' And he said, 'Here am I. Who art thou, my son?'" So it appears Isaac can't see well. And he says, "Who are you?" And verse 19, and Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. Which commandment did he disobey there? Yeah, he lied. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. He bore false witness. He was asked a question, and he gave a false witness. He said, I am Esau. And he was not Esau, he was Jacob. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that my soul, thy soul, may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, How is it thou hast done it so quickly, my son? He said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. Whoo! There's another commandment. Using the Lord's name in vain. Had the Lord brought that to him? No. It was all deception. His mother had done it, had made it to deceive her husband because she was playing favorites. So he disobeys, thou shalt not bear false witness, and he disobeys, thou shalt not take the Lord of thy name, the name of the Lord thy God in vain. That's what he did there. I'm here because God blessed me. No, you were not. No, you were not, Jacob. But what happens? Verse 26, and his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment. Rebekah was smart. She knew what Isaac would be looking for, the smell. He smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed. Such deception. Verse 28, Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. So there's the blessing. There's the blessing. Isaac says, You're the chosen one. You're the firstborn. You get it all. May God bless you. May you eat the richness of the earth. May you have plenty of corn and wine. May God richly bless you. May all of your brothers serve you. May all your mother's children serve you. May everyone who curses you be cursed. And may everyone who blesses you be blessed. He gives him everything. Gives him the whole ball of wax. All of the blessings that Isaac can give, he gives to Jacob. Because of deception. Jacob, we're about to get interrupted. Okay, time for this to speak. I want you to leave with this. This is actually a decent place to stop. This is a recording of a negative thing of Jacob. A negative characteristic. He lied. And God still blessed him afterwards. You know, if I was making up a story, I would not put this story in here. If I was just making up a story to inspire people to do good, I would not put this story in here. But the Bible is meticulous in that it always records exactly what happens, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing. It always records the negative aspects of the characters of the story. It could have jumped from Joseph or from Jacob and his birth to some good things where he, toward the end, he has a vision of a ladder ascending to heaven and angels ascending and descending, and that is kind of an anti-Tower of Babel, a right Tower of Babel. He could have jumped to the place where these names run together, where Jacob wrestles with an angel, which is probably Jesus in the Old Testament, all night and desires a blessing. Those are good things. Why didn't the story just jump to there? Well, because it was important that God preserve for us the negative aspects of the character too, because there are men like we are. We can identify with those aspects, and to show more of his character. That he is a good and merciful God. Let's dismiss.